Media. As consumers, we are bombarded by it at every turn, like the Incredible Hulk being bombarded by gamma rays. But what makes some media endure, while others are banished to the forgotten black hole of obscurity, never to be heard from again? Who or what decides this? Hetero life mates Steve and Yahel want to know, and they want to know now. This is Obscurity Now. And what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Obscurity Now. My name is Steve, and with me is...
Yahel.
And together, we make up the most obscure podcast on the internet, and that's a good thing. Isn't that right, buddy?
Yes, you don't want people to listen to your podcast. That makes you one of the crowd. One of the sheep.
We're all about inclusion, or no, disclusion.
Disclusion. Yeah. Occlusion, I think, is... I don't know. What's happening with your hair, Steve?
You don't want to know. The heat here is destroying all hair products and and human beings, apparently.
I've known you for a long time. I've never seen you flip your hair like this. California's really changed you. This Hollywood lifestyle. I don't like what it's done.
What are you talking about, dude? I'm the same bro who used to hang out with you in Tampa. I just made a hang 10 sign for those of you who don't watch us. But there's one thing that we did watch, and that is the Chipmunk Adventure. It was, I guess this is a series of when we go back and watch maybe classic, maybe almost not so classic family films. The first one we did was Care Bears. There's a couple episodes back. You should check it out. It's a very popular episode. What's your history with not only the film, the Chipmunk Adventure, but Alvin and the Chipmunks themselves?
I used to love Alvin and the Chipmunks as a kid. Watched the cartoon, and I know they had like several iterations. Like I think they started in the 60s, but I watched like the one that ran from what was it, like 83 to 90 or something. It had like a really long run for a cartoon.
Yeah, I think I saw 81 or 82.
I think it was 83 to something like. I know it was like early 80s to just about the early 90s, maybe late 80s, something like that. Like six. I remember it was seven years. So I used to watch it, and this movie. I don't remember what cable channel would air it, but I used to watch it all the time. Oh, and I have some questions for 10-year-old Yahel about his viewing habits.
Oh, I don't know. I think he was right on cue with this movie. But yeah, same here. I loved the 80s Alvin and the Chipmunks show, mostly because I just like the fact that they sang like rock songs. And like, you would never hear any songs like that in in like a Mickey Mouse or Disney movie or anything, because they compose their own. One of my favorite episodes of the show was when they went from Chipmunk to Chip Punk. Do you remember that one?
I don't remember.
That's the actual title of it, and it's basically when they make a punk band. And it's pretty funny. I mean, of course, they're not like singing Sex Pistols or anything. I can't remember what songs they covered.
That would have been amazing if they had been singing some Sex Pistols.
That would be awesome. I would, if they did this CGI movie like that, I would pay to see it for sure. But yeah, this movie was a Honeycutt family regular. I think recorded it. I mean, it doesn't make sense that it would have been on the Disney Channel because it's not Disney, but I think they paid for other stuff to have on there just because maybe back then they were short on content or something. I don't know.
That makes sense.
But we recorded it and wore that VHS tape out, buddy. And I had a lot of nostalgia going into this for good. And some of it was ruined. I wouldn't say it was completely ruined, but before we get...
I had a lot of nostalgia going in for this too, Steve. And the next episode of Obscurity Now can be on my nostalgia and love for the Chipmunk Adventure because it's obscure.
Oh, great. People can just tune out now. They don't need to hear the rest of the show.
No, I mean, it's real good.
There's some really great things about it, and there's Well, we'll get to it. Let's get right into the IMDb here of the Chipmunk Adventure, which came out in 1987, May 22nd, 1987. It had opening...
Same year as Masters of the Universe.
Yeah, oh man, we need to get to that too. And just to clarify, of course, Alvin and the Chipmunks are not obscure, but I'd say this movie is definitely on the cusp of obscurity. And you, the listener or watcher, get to decide if you want it to be even more obscure or remembered for the whatever it is that it is. So it had a opening weekend in the USA of $584,720. The gross USA was what? What?
Wait, I'm sorry. 580 something thousand or $250,584. Steve, are you familiar with numbers?
They're actually my weak point for sure. So $2,584,720.
Okay, that makes a little more sense.
So anyway, basically the producers, who are also the directors and the writers and the voice actors, they said when this came out that it did okay, but it took them many DVD sales later to get their money back. I don't think I'm ever going to do the gross, the numbers again. I'll leave that up to you next time.
Sure, that might be.
But here's one thing.
I love how I was like, is it this number you said or this other number you said? And you're like, it's actually a third number I never said.
Right. But all right, here's the synopsis, something that I think I'm a little bit better at. All right, here we go.
Yes. Sure.
Alvin has entered himself and Simon and Theodore in a hot air balloon race around the world against the Chipettes to deliver diamonds for a group of diamond smugglers. The winner will collect a prize of $100,000.
That intro makes it sound like, that synopsis makes it sound like Alvin has decided to become the diamond smuggler.
Yeah, it really does. And this was written, I guess anyone on IMDb can write like a story or synopsis. It's written by some guy named Corey Simple. He's a very simple man.
Wow. I mean, it's not like a totally inaccurate.
No, it's fine.
Synopsis per se.
Yeah, it's like after Alvin did copious amounts of coke, he decided to. They just left that part out. Anyway, this is directed by Janice Carmen, written by Janice Carmen and Ross. All right, I practiced saying this guy's name, Bagdasarian. That's it, Ross Bagdasarian.
Yeah, I think that's
Jr. Who was actually the son of the original creator of the Chipmunks, who basically inherited it and then decided he wanted to keep that gravy train a-rolling. And the director, Janice Carmen, is his wife.
I did not know.
Yep, and so on to the a bit of the cast here.
Now
What's up?
Oh, no. Well, you're probably about to get to it, how this guy, Ross, also did the voice of Dave.
Yep, and he's also the voice of Alvin and most of the male chipmunks. In fact, got it right here.
Yeah.
I didn't want to leave out music by Randy Edelman, because I actually think, and we'll get to it later, I think the score is quite good. But Ross Bagdasarian does the voice of David, Alvin, Simon, and, well, that's all he's credited for here. Did you want to take a few more of the
somebody
voices?
Else does. Sure. But one thing about the character of Dave Sellers that I found out is that Seville, excuse me, yes. Dave Seville was the stage name of his dad, Ross Bagdasarian Jr., whatever. So his dad, the creator of the Chipmunks, Dave Seville was his stage name, actually. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
That's funny.
But in this you've got Frank Weller, which what Welker? Why can't we spent like 3 minutes talking about him before we went live, and I mispronounced his name like 7 times. You corrected me each time, and I don't respect you. I guess.
No problem.
And just continue.
Mutual disrespect, just like Mike Tenay and who was?
Yes,
mutual respect. There's an obscure reference for you.
Yeah. Dodie Goodman, who was Miss Rebecca Miller. One of the few people that I think didn't do multiple voices. I'm not going to go through everybody, but Nancy Cartwright is here, who she's famous from Simpsons, right?
That's right. She's Bart. And
Right.
also a staunch
And,
supporter of Scientology. Just thought I'd throw that in there.
Oh, great. Hopefully one day we can have an episode of Obscurity Now about Scientology. Hey, you remember that crazy Scientology cult?
I'd like to have an episode about all religion in general, but that's aside the point.
Well, it's a good way to get our entire audience to get along.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, religion, politics, these are the things that people love.
Right.
Also, Anthony DeLongis is it? Who I thought did a really good job as the voice of Klaus.
I love Klaus.
I can't. So Anthony was in Masters of the Universe, which came out the same year. You know who was in Masters of the Universe?
Dolph Lundgren.
Yes, but also Robert Duncan McNeil, who was a regular on Star Trek Voyager.
Oh my gosh! So are you telling me we're in a Star Trek connection?
Well, yeah, kind of. So he was, he was in Masters of the Universe with one of the main characters from Star Trek Voyager. But Anthony DeLongis himself was in 7 episodes of Star Trek Voyager.
Yes. So it sounds like we're in a.
Oh no! We've just entered another Star Trek connection.
You like that, buddy?
That's for those watching. That's the first time I had ever seen that.
I worked really hard on it.
Dude, that was awesome. Oh, and Chris Perry is here in the chat. Thank you, Chris. He said Frank Welker is a god among voice actors.
Absolutely.
But yeah, he was Anthony DeLongis, whatever his name is. He was Kaj, the main Kazon, in the first season of a couple of seasons of Star Trek Voyager. He's a large, imposing man.
Any other standouts here on the cast list we need to mention? Oh, I know one at least. How about yourself?
Not to me. Who'd you find?
For some reason, it lists Mel Blanc, the voice of Bugs Bunny,
yeah,
as additional voices. But when you click on the link, there's nothing there. So we can just assume that he is involved with something. And I think it's funny that, Frank Megatron Welker is the voice of, the baby penguin.
Yeah, and the dog.
Yeah, he does a lot of weird animal work.
And the dog doesn't talk, by the way, for those who haven't seen the movie. He just makes dog noises.
Right. Let's see. Produced by this, as we said, was produced by Ross Bagdasarian Jr., as well as his, and directed by his wife. And they actually financed it themselves with the money they made from the Saturday morning cartoon, which is probably why the cast is so small.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and they said they ran into a lot of problems. You know what? Let's jump over to the theater so I can show everyone our cool slideshow.
Oh, I was hoping you were gonna show us their problems, like maybe the bank account statements.
Well, the problems that they had were basically they had spread out, I guess, production to studios all over the globe, basically, and they had a deadline that was unmovable, which caused for them to cut a lot of the footage in the film, or a lot of the scenes in the film. So
interesting.
Yeah, I had no idea.
It's still an hour and 15 minutes.
Right, yeah.
It's not.
They just, they must have cut, the Simon massacre scene where he, kills a bunch of people in a fast food restaurant. Or maybe almost kills Alvin. I liked Simon at the beginning of this. He was really sarcastic and funny and, one of the only voices of reason, and in the with the chipmunks here. Who is your favorite chipmunk, by the way, Yahel?
Probably Simon. Even as a kid, I found Alvin to be a bit obnoxious. Theodore, I couldn't relate to,
right?
I guess, because he's such a Alvin and Theodore are like such over the top caricatures, which it's a kids show, so like fine, of course, like whereas Simon, for whatever reason, for those that don't know, he's the smart one
and the tallest
he wears
one.
glasses. Yeah, and the tallest one. Keeps himself lean, also in good shape. He's not just brains.
Wasn't he on the cover of Men's Health at one point?
Just leaning back like this. I'm just thinking of this good Men's Health cover. Simon, it's my turn to sing lead.
No, it's his Simon is, I guess is his last name, Seville. Simon Seville, not just all brain, but a little brawn too. And he's all oiled up.
Stepping out of Alvin's shadow.
Yeah. Well, I also liked Simon because he was the bass player most of the time, it seemed like. But
oh yeah.
Yeah, so wow. All right.
Simon's definitely the funniest. Theodore is an idiot, right? That just eats a lot.
Yeah. They make him pretty simple in this. He's the Forrest Gump of the group, who only like pretty much follows his stomach everywhere. But I like the running gag throughout the film where he's always trying to eat and then it never happens.
Yeah. I didn't even pick up on that. That is a good running gag. Speaking of the characters, was this the first time? Because I couldn't remember that the Chipettes were introduced.
No, they were pretty prevalent throughout the show. They even...
I know that they were in the show. I just couldn't remember if this came out and then they got introduced into the show.
Well, I'm pretty sure they were in the show. I mean, I just remembered... I see what you're saying. You're saying, like, maybe this was the thing that brought in the Chipettes, like in the way that the Care Bears brought in the Care Bear cousins in the movie.
Yeah, because eventually Alvin and the Chipmunks just gets changed to like the Chipmunks.
Right.
Once the Chipettes are in the show, and I think that's why. In fact, I might have even read that.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll just go ahead and count it as gospel. But I just remember...
I don't want the Chipmunk community to get upset.
I mean, apparently there is one. I went to the Alvin and the Chipmunks like fan wiki. I think they call it what do they call it? I don't remember. But yeah, that's where I got a lot of these...
The Chipopedia.
Yeah, something like that. A lot of these fun facts. And one of the things is first off, like, if you're looking for this streaming or on Blu-ray or DVD, you're going to be highly disappointed because I guess they did a little research and development and decided that it wasn't financially economical for them to release this again. And if you go on Amazon, like the cheapest DVD you can find is like $80 or something like that. So if you've got a copy on your hands, hang on to it. It might send you to like 3 days of college in the future.
The new Bitcoin is what they're calling it, I believe.
Monk coin.
Yeah. Oh God. I don't know where you watched it, but I found it on YouTube. Somebody uploaded literally 2 weeks ago. I think the day that you and I decided to do this topic, I'm not even joking, somebody uploaded a really nice copy up on YouTube.
Those clever Russians, they're always listening in. Or is it just the U.S. government themselves? Who knows? But speaking of Russians... That's one of the places they didn't go when they were traveling around the world here. And I mean, that's for anyone who hasn't seen this movie. I mean, it's basically around the world in 80 days with the Chipmunks. But and also, I think it's funny that the whole adventure, like the catalyst for the whole Chipmunk adventure, is the fact that they just happened to be playing an arcade game called Around the World in 30 Days, where our villains, these rich weirdos who are also brother and sister, Klaus and Claudia Furstein, just happen to be sitting around like they're in the dump. Why did they all go to the same pizzeria? Like I
didn't understand what they were doing there. Like the rich people. Like I obviously get the Chipmunks being there, their kids hanging out, playing video games at the pizzeria, but the real weird.
1% need their pizza too, I guess.
I guess so.
Yeah, well, that's like, all right, let's get into this thing what are some of the? Let's start off with the good here, Yahel. What are some of the things that you liked about this movie?
What? Well, it's the animation I thought was actually pretty
Beautiful,
well done.
Beautiful. Very cinematic too.
Yeah. There were some nice shots. I like when, especially when cartoons of this era, whenever they do like a panning shot, they actually take the effort to do some parallax, kind of scrolling. Sure. So there were some really nice shots. I would say pretty, if not on par with something you would see out of Disney from the time, pretty damn close.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I liked like when they showed the scenes of the inspector and his men in the in his, I guess, office. It was like classic like film noir setup. Also, there was a really cool scene where Claudia was just like stoking a fire, and it was like shot through the fire, like up at her. And I was just like, wow, that's beautiful. And then, of course, not to mention like the backgrounds for all of the many exotic locales. They were just awesome.
So it definitely stands out from what you would see on Saturday mornings from.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And it's also underscored nicely by the score, which, I mean, right when the first shot of the film starts, and they have that do 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 do. It's like, to me, that is the call to adventure right there. Like, I should have listened to this soundtrack when I was driving from Florida to LA. But apparently, that's also something that's really rare and expensive, is the soundtrack to this movie.
Much better than the Care Bears soundtrack.
Oh yeah, well, this one's also a lot more in your face, I would say. There's actual, comedy, where we discussed that, Care Bears was pretty low key for the most part, aside from the fact that there was a book with a green head in it. I guess speaking of villains, like, what do you think about our main antagonists here, Yahel?
I honestly, they were probably my favorite characters in the movie. I thought the voice actors did an awesome job. One thing that I was afraid that they were going to do, because I couldn't really remember, was the sister, the rich sister villain. I thought for sure she was going to they're going to go the stereotypical route. She was going to be really mean to her dog. But she treats that dog like gold, which I thought was very interesting.
Trust me, living in Hollywood, I see a lot of Claudias and Sophies walking around in the park every day. But yeah, Claudia and Klaus were hilarious. I would say, I mean, obviously Klaus was more of the comic relief. Claudia, she looked very scary at times. They did an awesome job on the facial animation for both of them.
Yeah. And the character designs are really good. They really stand out.
For sure. I mean, they didn't really do anything too bad on camera. I mean, again, this is a kid's movie, but I remember being 8 years old and being afraid of Claudia, just from the way that she moved and the faces that she made and always yelling and stuff. But Klaus, oh man, I laughed at so many of the dumb little slapstick routines they put him in, like the scene where they're sitting in the pool and he starts flicking water on Sophie, and she.
Sophie's the dog.
Yeah, the little dog.
For those. Or Frank Welker, as his friend, as the dog's friends call him.
It was really weird when Sophie was like, "Starscream, you failed me again." And she deflates his raft, and then in classic Looney Tunes fashion, it shoots him all over the pool, and he falls into the waterfall. And I don't know, I just, watching that again as an adult cracked me up. And there were a few other scenes that I just remember plain as day, like when the Chipmunks, or specifically Alvin, used the tape recording to fool Miss Miller. And when they it's slow, and he's like, Miller, and she's like, David, are you drunk? That just cracked me up every time, and even cracked me up this time too. And here's a weird little plot hole I discovered. Sorry, stop me if I'm wrong here, but Miss Miller was basically the David Seville for the Chipettes, right? she watched the Chipettes in the show?
You know what? I don't remember because like when she came on screen, she seemed familiar to me, but I couldn't figure it out. So maybe you're right about that. But yeah, I don't really remember.
Right.
But yeah, but if she is, you know, then why? Yeah, because they never explained like what the Chipettes, like how they end up like getting kind of like the okay to go do this.
Right. See, and here's the thing. Again, this could pick up where you were saying that they, you know, added the Chipettes later in the show, maybe after the movie. And that is that, yeah, in the show, Miss Miller watched the Chipettes. So who was watching the Chipettes when Miss Miller was watching the Chipmunks? It was like,
right.
I was like, whoa, mind blown. Plot hole. Who'd have thought?
So you are right. I'm on Monkipedia.
That's it.
Which is not too far from Chipopedia. But yeah, she was in the show. Her first appearance was in an episode called Help Wanted Mommy, which something you can also like put into like the search field in Pornhub and get, I'm sure, hits for it. But yeah, so she was in that, and she takes in the Chipettes.
But was that,
so I guess
was that prior to the movie or after? So
that's what I'm trying to figure out. It's season 4. They say that this is her first appearance.
Oh, okay. So all right, so
I think you're correct.
Yeah, because if the Chipettes were introduced in the movie, then their rivalry at the beginning wouldn't have made sense, because they just sort of, you know, show them in the pizzeria, and Alvin and Brittany, they're already at each other's throats.
Yeah, I just assumed it was kind of one of those, it's a kid show thing, and like boys don't like girls, and it doesn't really need to be explained. But it seems like you're correct, though, that they were already on the show, and yeah. And so you're right. What the F is going on with the Chipettes? Just being able to do whatever they want.
Yeah, they were left alone to fend for themselves. That's something else. Yeah, some other great sort of funny moments that stick out in my mind were, well, let's see, there's Klaus. I kind of liked the, sometimes those cops, even though you didn't know they were cops, they looked like criminals. But that's one thing that I think was almost sort of clever about the script, which, surprise, surprise, I think is the weakest thing about this movie, but we'll get to that later, is that they do the, it's called a reversal in screenplays, is you think these cops are the bad guys the whole time, even though they never really explain where they're coming from. But then at the end, they work for Interpol, which, as an 8-year-old, I had no idea what Interpol was.
By the way, we do have Cosmic Katamari here in the chat. He said, was Alvin and the Chipmunks on the CDI? Hi, everybody.
Yeah, welcome, Cosmic.
Actually, they may have been, because it was pretty typical for like 80s cartoons and kids shows like Sesame Street, Berenstain Bears, to have like edutainment titles on the CDI, and there's like hundreds of them, so they may be on the CDI.
By the way, thank you for saying Berenstain Bears and not Berenstain Bears. Like, this is our reality. Just want you to know that. This is our reality.
And you're right, the Chipettes actually were, I looked it up, they were in the very first episode of Alvin and the Chipmunks. So they were there all along.
There you go,
Steve.
There you go. So, all right, so we've got some great music, great animation, some...
Well, the music, I wouldn't say it's all
I meant the
great.
Score. I meant we got a great score,
yes, okay.
And I was going to move on to next, what you thought about the pop songs that were in this movie.
You know, it's weird because like the arrangements are pretty well done. You know, for the songs that they cover, like they cover like Wooly Bully.
Like that one.
I can't remember like the other ones that they covered. That one just really sticks out to me. But one thing that I didn't realize, and maybe I just didn't care about as a kid, is it is fucking impossible to understand what these kids or what these chipmunks are singing. Like, if it's just one of them singing, it's okay.
Right.
You can kind of make it out. But the moment that all three of the chipmunks are like singing, especially if they're doing harmonies, forget it. You cannot understand a word that they're saying. And honestly, like I found their music numbers to be more obnoxious than anything, with the exception of maybe Wooly Bully.
Right. I like, all right. So I've got a couple in here that I like, that I've always liked, and I even liked listening to, though. But yeah, of course, the high pitchedness of their voice is very grating, for sure, as a 39-year-old. But yeah, I liked Wooly Bully. I liked when they did the "We're Off to See the World" song at the beginning. The Girls of Rock and Roll, or the Boys of Rock and Roll, whichever one it was. When they're in Greece, I thought that was a pretty fun song. And also at the end, it's called the Diamond Dolls, I think is the title.
I think, yeah,
in the airport. Yeah, but I mean, those are sort of like typical like 80s just rock songs that again, I mean, when I was 8, you could only hear that on the radio when you're really not that interested. But if the Chipmunks were singing it, that's a totally different story.
Well, speaking of these songs, like there's one point where the Chipettes sing a song to charm some cobras.
Oh, that
are going to kill them.
That's definitely in the bad section. That whole scene.
That it's such a weird scene. A lot of weird decisions, but the chorus of the song is these like young girls saying, "Tell me what I need to do to get with you." While they're like doing this weird dance. I'm just like, oh, what? Like, I don't know, man. It was just kind of weird.
Well,
because the way that they're singing it is like they're trying to, not that they're like necessarily trying to seduce the cobras, but because they're trying to, get the cobras to not attack him. What do you call when you get the cobras? They charm the cobras. Yeah. They're kind of moving like somewhat like, like seductively. So the whole thing is just weird. And when I heard that, I'm like, oh, that could have been phrased a little better.
Right. Well, I mean, the whole script. All right, since we're already in kind of negative territory, we'll just go ahead and dive in.
Oh, well, I mean, was there any other positives though that you wanted to touch on? Because I think I get the feeling you liked this film more than I did.
I mean, those are definitely the big positives, I'd say. What else is there? I think that's like as an 8 or 10-year-old, however old I was. I mean, I really enjoy the adventure aspect of it. Just it was very Indiana Jones or James Bond.
It's a good length too for kids movie. I think.
Sure. It's a good movie to watch. Like we had our massive conversion van that had a TV and VCR in it that we used to use on trips when we would go visit our family from Florida up in South Carolina, and we would usually watch this movie. And it was like, hey, we're traveling and the Chipmunks are traveling, so all is good.
Very lame.
Yeah.
Very lame.
Just thought I'd share here. But I liked Simon and his sarcastic one-liners, as I already said. I think we covered like the good for sure. But the bad is the script. It's all plot and no story. There's no character arc for anyone. Nobody learns anything new.
Brittany almost has a character arc.
Yeah, it was like they teased it. I wonder if like character stuff is what got like axed when they were cutting stuff because they were running out of money. But like when they have the whole baby penguin scene, which really I feel like is just filler. I mean, I guess the whole race could be filler if you want to like get technical. But then we wouldn't have a movie. Like when they're like singing about their mother that they need, it was like, are they going to like find a mom at the end of this movie? Because as far as I know, Chipettes don't have a mother. So it was just like, sometimes I just wonder how this script was conceived. If they were just like, hey, what songs we got? And it's like, okay, we got these songs. Well, why don't we just send them on a fun little race around the world, and bada bing, bada boom, we got ourselves a feature.
I think you're right, because one of the notes I had, my notes is that the excuses for the songs are pretty flimsy. Like, it's just like, I don't know. And for me, a big negative is like the songs, because of, again, the arrangements are fine. It's just like you said, like it's very grating, and probably because I'm older, right? Now, so yeah, the high pitched stuff is grating. I also thought it was really weird when the Chipmunks go to Mexico. They do this song because, of course, there's a fiesta all of a sudden.
Sure, they're always going on there, right?
I'm a Hispanic man. That's what we do. But yeah, I thought it was really weird. So the Chipmunks start to do their song, and to me, this is probably the most difficult to understand song from the lyrics, because they're singing in high pitched voices. It's they're singing in harmonies the whole time, and they're doing it with these weird stereotypical like Mexican Hispanic accents, and it's just like, why?
Right.
Because the song already has like a few Spanish words in it, which makes sense. You know, you're doing the song in Mexico about what's going on. But yeah, like, why did they have them singing like Hispanic accents? Like,
yeah,
it just made them even more difficult to understand.
Right. Yeah, like the portrayals of some of these foreign lands is like, I mean, I don't.
Not good.
Yeah, I don't know if it's weird. I would say it's almost stereotypical, but it's more like the pulp versions of them. It's like they didn't go to like Egypt in 1986. They went to the Egypt that Indiana Jones went to.
Yeah.
And of course, there's like a sultan there who's their age who wants to make the Chipettes their wives, his wife, which is voiced by Nancy Cartwright, aka Bart Simpson. Yeah, it's all like, the thing is that it's, of course, when you're 8, none of this matters, but it's all pretty random. There's no aside from those policemen chasing them, there's very little to like bind any of this together. And the fact that the Chipmunks happen to run into the Chipettes in all the world, in all of the little markets in all the world, and all the oranges, or was it an orange? Like Alvin reaches for an orange, and who's on the other end of it? But Brittany, and then they do their little rock and roll song.
There's a lot of plot
coincidence. Yeah, like the whole thing really reeks of like someone who maybe a first time script writer. But I'm sure back then as well, they were like, it's for kids. They're just gonna go with it. I mean, which they did,
and they're right.
Yeah. And so
the portrayals of like the civilizations that they go on, like, you're right, like it makes no sense. It's all over the place. It could have been a time travel movie. And then of course they run into some sort of indigenous people somewhere, and what are they? Cannibals, of course. Oh no, they're not cannibals. They do human sacrifice.
It's supposed to be Brazil.
That's what it was. Okay, I couldn't remember. I was like, really?
I wonder why they didn't opt for like in travel movies, whenever they go to a new place, they always show put a sign like, oh look, they're in Macabre or whatever, wherever. They didn't bother. I mean, I guess I can give them props for just like, oh, we'll just have it be in the dialogue. Ooh, here we are in Greece. So here we are in Athens. But again, if you're trying to appeal to kids, why not just put, hey, look, Greece, bam, right there on the screen. That way the kid knows where they are, and if they want to learn more about Greek culture, they can go to their local library and check out a book.
Steve, maybe you can like help clarify this for me, because another thing that I found to be in the negative is, I don't want to say that I found the plot confusing per se, but I found the setup to be a little ridiculous in terms of like, so they're going in these hot air balloons and they have dolls, like they each have like Chipettes have a bunch of Chipette dolls, right? Or do they have, and then the Chipmunks have a bunch of Chipmunk dolls. They go to a country, to a certain spot, then they give somebody, like, if I'm Alvin, I give them my Chipmunk doll, and they in turn give me a Chipette doll.
That's right.
But it's not the Chipette doll that the other Chipettes dropped off, even though the Chipette, so they're not both going to the same countries?
No. All right, so they have all these guys already waiting in these countries. They're basically waiting for their diamond delivery.
Okay, and then they're getting the money from the guys.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And no, it's a totally convoluted plot. Like one that I don't think I ever grasped when I was 8 years old.
Because here's what confused me, and sorry to cut you off, but the people that are giving them the money already have the Chipette dolls, right? Like if you're the Chipmunks. So how did they get these dolls? Like, so obviously, like, did they like ship these to them?
Yeah, the
like,
doll. Yeah, I wrote that too. Like I was like, wow, Klaus and Claudia must have had quite a lot of people working to make these Alvin and the Chipmunk dolls. Like I just wonder if that was like, branding. Like if they they were just like, if we put in stuffed animal versions of the Chipmunks and the Chipettes, the kids are going to want to buy them.
Yeah, I mean, I remember there being like little stuffed dolls of them. So I don't know if it coincided with the film, but makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, right? Again, that's one of the things I never questioned when I was 8. I was like, of course they have dolls of themselves. But that's like one of the questions about the Chipmunk universe, the Chipmunk cinematic universe. And this is also in the show as well. I was like, sometimes they're like huge rock stars that they can't, and then other times they're just going to school and they're regular kids. Which is it? Hello, Ross Bagdasarian. Tell me, I'd like to know. And that brings me to this next question, and I'm pretty sure I already know the answer, but have you watched any of the CGI Alvin and the Chipmunk movies?
No, I haven't. The trailers looked pretty rough for me.
Yeah, I wasn't really interested either. I mean, I don't know. I'm still a big supporter of 2D animation. If they did a Chipmunk Adventure 2, I'd watch it. But I should probably save that to the end. But yeah, like that's a question that I've had about the Chipmunk universe, even since the beginning. I was just like, so are they big rock stars or are they just regular kids? And then that brings on the whole animal sentience thing. That's another thing about the when they go to the penguin place.
My notes too.
Yeah, when they go to the penguin place and like there's fully formed penguin families, like mothers and fathers missing their baby penguin in the igloo.
They have like cribs for the babies made out of wood.
Oh, and
where did they get this wood?
And here's a question for you, Yahel. Riddle me this. Like the baby penguin is wearing a locket with a photo of his or her family in it. Who took that picture?
I don't know, Steve. Obviously, somebody there set up a photography business. Doing that side hustle, grinding 24/7.
Either that or
I don't know.
Ross Bagdasarian Jr. had a Bagdasarian full of cocaine that he stored it while he was writing this.
Well, this is 1987, so maybe they have an Eckerd at their corner that develops photos. I don't know.
Eckerd. What an obscure reference. Oh, I love it. I'm going to have to make a soundbite for that, too, of some kind.
But yeah, man, like I agree. And like, it's weird. Like, why are the chipmunks sentient? They speak. Mm-hmm. Humans have no problems with them speaking, but they're the only animals that speak.
Right. Right.
I don't know. Why is the dog a pet, but the chipmunks aren't?
I also love how, like, they definitely, went into, like, Looney Tunes areas with, like, the alligators during the Wooly Bully scene. Like, they were, there was a few other times when, they really...
When the alligators were trying to eat them, when the people of Brazil were trying to sacrifice... the Chipmunk boys to we don't know why, other than they're doing it because on the full moon.
I like to think it's to Cthulhu, but
I guess so. By the way, how funny was it that how convenient was it that Theodore knew the language?
You mean Simon?
Oh yeah, Simon.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the smart one. He knew the language of the indigenous people and how to read it.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought was funny when they did. And this was reaching for a gag, but I think they pulled it off when he was like sacrifice the such and such by the such and such. He's like, oh no, I've got it all wrong. it's eyes before teeth, except after teeth, or something, basically making fun of that old grammar, like, which I never got back then, but I got now, and it's only moderately funny. But I was like, you're reaching, but it's something. At least you tried to make it funny, I guess.
I don't know. It's weird that, like, man, if they're going to, like, throw in some jokes to appeal to the adults watching it with their kids, why did they only appeal to, like, English school teachers?
That's true. That's true.
English school teacher's going to get a real kick out of this one.
Yeah.
I have one more thing in the. I don't know if I guess this is a negative, and it's something that as a kid I probably didn't really notice, but the Chipettes have to be the laziest characters.
Oh, you mean the fact that they're just girl versions of the Chipmunks?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Literally, Brittany is just like Alvin. I don't even remember the other two's name, but they have one that's, overweight and eats a lot, so she's the Theodore, and then they have a smart one with glasses, that's their Simon.
Brittany, Jeanette, and dang, I can't remember the third one. But yeah, you're right, and even worse than that is, I could say that, all right, if I close my eyes and listen to the Chipmunks, I could probably at least pick out like Simon and maybe Alvin. But if I close my eyes and listen to the Chipettes, nah. And I mean, it's because it's all voiced by his wife. She does.
Yeah. Maybe you should try closing your mind.
Closing my mind to these movies that we're forcing ourselves to watch.
So Ross Bagdasarian, and he says that that's the best way to watch his films. Just close your mind.
Yeah, there you go. Let's see. I think we hit all the major ones. Like, I will say that, all right, I was totally on board as I was watching this until when they finally got to what we now know is Brazil, and then the Chipettes got to the penguin area. I guess you could say
Antarctica.
Yeah, Antarctica. I guess that's the end of Act 2. Like, I was kind of over it at that point. I was like, God, I'm sick of seeing them go into places and,
Act 2 was like way too long.
Yeah, it was a massive Act 2, just like with Generation X.
But I think it's because of the songs.
Yeah, and just it's a flimsy story. They should have had a moment where, like, David and, like, I don't know, Dave saves Alvin or vice versa, and then they, have like a sort of father-son-esque moment or something along those lines. But there's like,
yeah, it never felt like there was like any real peril, because as much like the Care Bears movie, I guess, like as soon as there was a little bit of peril, within a few minutes it was resolved. And then we moved on to the next peril at the next, location.
Yeah, they never even had to, I guess they faced up to Claudia and Klaus at the end. But in the end, the person who actually stops Klaus and Claudia is Miss Miller. Just because she's were they driving on the wrong side of the road? I don't even understand. They just sort of have an accident, and she gets out and goes all crazy Karen on him,
and then the cops like show up, and Dave who had just like, because Dave saw them like taking Alvin.
Well, we were talking about coincidences. Yeah, the coincidence that the wind blew Alvin's hat over to Dave, and he's like, "That looks like Alvin's hat. It is Alvin's hat.
Oh,
Dave, save me!" Yeah, but I always thought it was funny when Miss Miller went crazy on them. Just when her rear view mirror just comes down a little bit after causing the accident, and she like freaks out. I hope you have insurance, Buster.
Like she's got like this car from like the 1950s, and obviously in immaculate condition, and the only thing that's her, for those who haven't seen the movie, on her car is just her rear view mirror.
Yeah,
and it looks like it takes like 2 minutes to fix it, and that was actually the only time watching this movie that I like really laughed.
Yeah, I thought it was, and then of course they had to end it with Dave yelling, "Alvin!" But it was funny. Alvin was still, moderately funny when he was like, "We'll split it with you. They promised us $100,000." And I think it's funny because $100,000 in 2021 is like nowhere near worth what it was then,
Right.
and it's not worth all the trouble that they went through. I'm sure back then I was like, oh my God, $100,000. I'd go on that race, no problem. But nowadays, I'd be like $100,000. Like, that's not even a down payment on a house here in the valley. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. And I will say, though, for the villains, like, it was kind of interesting because it seemed like the villains were going to legitimately, like, pay them the $100K.
Yeah,
like,
it did. Like,
all things considered, I mean, they set them up with, like, these hot air balloons. Like, I don't know, like, these villains, I mean, I guess they're supposed to be bad people, but like you said, we never really see them do anything dastardly except at the very end.
Right.
I guess they kidnap the...
No, they said they kidnapped Miss Miller, but they didn't. And then that led to, all right, kidnapping the Chipmunks and the Chipettes.
Yeah, that's what I mean, kidnapping the
and their butler.
kids.
Yeah. I mean, as far as like on the list of like villains or criminals, like diamond smuggler, I mean, that's pretty harmless if you think about it. In fact,
well, maybe there were blood diamonds.
I was gonna say, like,
this is the 80s.
The diamond industry probably causes more harm than they ever did.
Yeah. In fact, this was a missed opportunity for the Chipmunks and Chipettes to discover that these were blood diamonds, and that should have been the main plot.
Now that's some
film.
sweet virtue signaling there, buddy.
Yeah.
That'll get you a job in Hollywood, no problem.
Sing me a song about these blood diamonds, Chipmunk.
Blood diamond. Blood diamonds in your eyes. God. Oh, man. Yeah. Well, I think...
What was your final thoughts, your verdict? I think we
Yes. We are in the verdict now. We're going to answer the question, should the Chipmunk Adventure be banished to the black hole of obscurity, never to be heard from again? Or should it be continued to be move forward, I guess, rediscovered by future generations? And I would say that, it almost could be timeless in the way that, all right, it's like pure adventure. There's no references to like stuff from the 80s. Like you could watch... Yeah, you could watch that and, feel like it was made yesterday, except for when they go to the places like Egypt. That's like and I mean, I've never been to Mexico, but I don't know if it looks the way it's portrayed in in the Chipmunk Adventure. Like if they could have upgraded that, it would have been timeless. I still think it's funny. I still think the songs are pretty good. And at least as an 8 or 10-year-old, you could probably get into those. I'm going to vote that we keep remembering the Chipmunk Adventure, even though it seems like Ross Bagdasarian himself has kind of let it go to the wayside to focus on, CGI movies. I don't know. What do you say, Yahel?
Yeah. Man, I came into this with really high hopes just because I had watched it so much as a kid. And I was shocked at how much I didn't enjoy it. I just, like, the songs were, like, just obnoxious to me. Again, I guess if you're a little kid, maybe it's fine. But I'm actually really shocked that I even liked it as a little kid because this is the kind of thing that I feel I wouldn't have liked as a little kid. So I don't know if if the Chipmunks came out today, I don't think that they would be very successful if it just like started today, because I think part of the reason for their success has a lot to do with the lack of choices in the 80s. And I don't feel like it's timeless. Like I feel like if you sit an 8-year-old in front of this movie right now, they're not going to like it because I don't know if this makes any sense, but I feel like current entertainment and like animation and stuff for like 8-year-olds is more sophisticated. I don't know if that makes sense in a way.
Are you saying it's more sophisticated writing wise or animation wise? What do you help me out here?
I think in both. Now, I think that if you're talking about a 5 or 6-year-old, I think they'd probably love this. But I really feel like that's about like the age group it would really fall in. To me, like, man, I was really let down. I was really disappointed.
Aw.
I think if it would have been like a 20-minute episode, I would have liked it. But maybe it's because the second act just like went on and on,
Yeah.
much like I'm going on and on.
No, hey, that's why you're here, buddy.
So, in my opinion, I'd say no.
All right, so I guess we have a stalemate here. So it's not going to get erased from existence just yet, but who knows? Maybe we'll follow up. But I don't think the Chipmunks franchise is going to go away anytime soon. Like they had the 2 CGI movies, and I think there was a show for a while.
I think so too.
I don't know if there's anything going on exactly right now. But yeah, I guess only time will tell. Like when I was doing my research, I guess during the 80s there was one point when they were pretty much going like head to head with Disney for a while there, in at least as far as their popularity was going.
Yeah, I can see that. Chipmunks were huge.
Yeah, I mean, and even when they were first conceived in the 70s, when they were just like a fake, band by, Ross Bagdasarian Sr., all he was doing was like bumping the pitch up on his voice, and like they had a #1 single at some point. Like that's so crazy. I wish I could go back to the 70s and steal that idea. Like
it was the 60s actually, so they're even older than that.
Yeah.
That they had their hit single, and I think like the first animation thing, or maybe it was the first song was like 58, but yeah, they go way back. And this isn't, and like the 80s series wasn't even the first cartoon series that they had. Yeah, I just it's kind of crazy, like just pitch shifting, and
that's enough.
It made this guy an empire.
Yeah,
but he was the T-Pain of his time.
So okay. You want the movie should be forgotten, but what about the Chipmunk franchise, the Chipmunks themselves? Like, should they continue moving forward, or would you rather have a future without the Chipmunks?
Have you seen these new? I just saw the character designs for the 3D movies, and I'm just like, oh god,
no. I'm not watching that.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're fine as characters. I just maybe they don't work as a full-length film, at least for me, because of all the singing and their grating, hideous voices.
Right. I'm not a big fan of musicals, like anyway. So yeah, I definitely feel
like the movie, and I feel like the characters, like it was too Alvin heavy. I think too. Not a lot. It was like very Alvin and Theodore heavy. I feel like Simon. I feel like outside of a quip here and there, like I feel like he didn't have a ton to do.
He had a bit. I mean, he had at the beginning. He was a basic. I feel like he should have been more of a conflict for Alvin. Like
that's what I mean.
In the end, he was just like, "I'm only coming along to see that you don't get into too much trouble." I'm like, that's the best you could come up with, Ross Bagdasarian. Like, I mean, they could have done something like, if you don't come, I'm not going to tell you where I hid your favorite microscope. Something simple like that. But yeah, I guess they were like, oh, we addressed it, so we're good.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, I mean, I feel like it really could have been timeless if they didn't have those weird, pulpy, stereotypical portrayals of like Egypt and Mexico and the other places.
I think that's probably what dates it the most.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, because that's like the 80s. Well, the 80s looking back on the 50s view of those foreign places.
And it was real
if
weird.
they would have bothered to have more of a story with their script, then it really could have been like more timeless. But yeah. All right. So that's our basically our take on the Chipmunk Adventure. Check it out or not. It's your choice. Before we go, we're going to have a little project report.
It's time for Project Report.
So, Yahel, you released a new video. When did you release it?
Last week, which would have been June 19th.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. Super Mario Kart, it's doing okay. It's doing all right. I hate when YouTubers complain about their views, which, I mean, I have complained about my views before.
Don't get me started on the views for this show.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's not doing like terrible or anything. Like we were saying off air, it'll probably cross 50K views today. So I'm not upset about that. But yeah, it's being well received, which is what all that matters to me. That people aren't saying, "Oh, this reminds me of the Chipmunk Adventure."
I wouldn't say that's an insult, but it would be an odd comparison for a fiction, cartoon versus a factual documentary. But hey, whatever makes you happy. Cool. Well, I know I plan to check it out, and you should too.
What about you, Steven? What have you been up to?
Well, let's see. There's a new episode of Tim's Toy Box available for everyone to watch. There'll be a link in the description. This time he finds do you remember the show Cops, Fighting Crime in a Future Time?
Yeah.
He finds some cops. He also gets a Mask of the Phantasm action figure, mint on card, which is pretty sweet. And yeah, you should check out more if you're interested into retro toys. And also, in regards to my comic book, my artist has sent me pages. Like, they're not done, but they're just they're called roughs. I'm learning all the terminology. But it looks awesome. It's just crazy to see my script come to life with, me just telling this guy what to do and giving him money. It's funny how things work. Yeah, so I don't know. I hope to have something to show on here soon, but for now, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Obscurity Now. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we sign off here, Yahel?
No, I'm great. Bully Wooly, everyone.
And remember, we're off to see the world. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next week.
You've been enjoying Obscurity Now, a podcast that's recorded live to tape and streamed to Twitch and YouTube. Subscribe so you never miss an episode or hilarious quip. Take us with you by following the download links provided in the show notes to wherever you get podcasts. And take notice of our various social media links if that's what you're into. I'm not here to judge. And make sure you join us live next week at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific as we continue to discuss more obscure media only on Obscurity Now.